I want to speak about Lydia, a worshiper and a gateway of faith. Lydia was a worshiper. She was also a gateway of faith. When I think about what it is to be a gateway, I think about an entryway, point of access where something enters and comes in. By definition, a gateway is an access or an entryway, but it's controlled by a gate. The gate can either be open or it can be shut. If the gate is open, then there's entrance. If the gate is closed, the gate is locked. In my mind, even now, I'm seeing a do not enter sign on a gate at my son's school. It means the gate is not open. It's not the way that you're supposed to come in. The door is closed. A gateway is a point of access or entryway. Last summer, our family traveled to St. Louis. I was doing some work. Actually, Kimber and I were speaking in St. Louis on marriage. And we took some family time, spread it out a little bit, and took some time. We got to see a whole lot of things. We even traveled over to Kansas City, went to the College Basketball Hall of Fame. We got to the St. Louis Zoo and did a whole lot of neat family things. But one of the things that we were able to see while we were there was the St. Louis Arch. They call it the Gateway Arch. One of the things that surprised me about the arch is how big it is. It expands over several acres of the city. It expands over a river. I mean, it's huge. You can see it from miles away. The Gateway Arch. It is the largest monument in the United States. It stands 630 feet tall. You can even take a tram, which we were not able to do. You can take a customized elevator. I didn't say that correctly. I was afraid to do. Praise the Lord. God's not giving us a spirit of fear, but I'm not getting in that tiny thing. Praise the Lord. It looked a little tight to me. So we didn't have time to go into the Gateway Arch. We ran out of time some kind of way, but we did get to see it from the ground. And one of the things that was interesting here again was not just the size, but what it stands for. It is the gateway to the West. It is a monument of Western expansion. And there was a time that our country set forth and started going westward, and this monument is to commemorate, is to keep in mind that we expanded, that someone had the courage to venture out, and now it is called the Gateway. It's the entrance, it's the access to the Midwest, which leads to the West. You have to go through St. Louis for you to get to the other side. Whether you fly, whether you walk, whether you ride a bike, whether you take a car, you've got to go through the middle to get to the other side. It is the gateway, the entrance point. I think about a few years ago, the Lord gave me the opportunity in 2012 to go to Ghana, in West Africa. It was a great trip. I was there with Leap. It was 6 authors. We were all there. We were sharing our books. We were sharing our testimony. We were sharing just this idea of thinking beyond the village that they lived in. Leaps was a literacy group that we had started, and we took maybe 600 or 700 books over there. And we were helping these young children to see that in their village, they didn't think beyond. They didn't think much beyond 8th grade. They didn't think beyond what was beyond the 5 miles that separated them from the rest of Ghana. They were down this dirt hill that if it rained, you couldn't even get out of the village if it rained hard enough. And so they were kind of separated from everybody else. A 5-mile dirt road and separated from everybody else. These Ghanaians were strong in their faith. They were strong people. They were a strong nation. They served the Lord. They worshiped God. We had so much, just a great time fellowshipping and talking about the Lord. I learned so much while I was there. One of the things that I was able to do, our group was able to do, the 6 of us, we were able to raise some money for a young girl, and her name was Lydia. Lydia became, in this village, she became the first person in the village to actually go off to high school. When we arrived, she was an English teacher, but had never gotten beyond the 8th grade. She was the only one in the village who could teach English, but she had never even gotten past 8th grade. And she was 22 years old, and here we were sending her to high school. For the cost of $1,000, we were able to send her to school. It would be the equal of us going off to college. She went away from the village for the first time in her life. She lived in, she had to stay at the school. She ate her meals at the school, and she stayed there for 3 years, learning about culinary arts. And now she's back home in her village teaching English, and she's become a gateway. This woman, this young woman, that's 22 years of age, named Lydia, became a gateway because now she's encouraging others. You got to get out beyond the village. You got to go on beyond here, and you got to go to high school, and then on to college, and then on from there. She became an entryway. The rest of the kids in the village were raised to hunt an animal that they called grass cutter. In Baltimore, we call them something else. We call those city rats. But that was the ambition of the village. The young women they were raised to sell water downtown in the city. But when we shared with her this opportunity, she became a gateway. She became an entrance point. They now can look at her and say, now we can go further than where we've always thought. God used this young woman named Lydia. It's interesting because there was a lot of jealousy. There was a lot of talk. How come she gets to go? Sometimes God chooses who he chooses because he knows who he can use.